Evaluation contests must be between 2 to 3 minutes. A contestant will be disqualified if the speech is less than 1 minute and 30 seconds or more than 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Technology. If audio or video technology fails during the contest, if it is only one contestant, I, as the chief judge, will pause the contest until the technology and/or error has been resolved. Contestants will then resume their speak at the point in which the technology failed. They will be allowed an additional 30 seconds extra time. If the contest chair determines that the contest can no longer continue due to a lack of contestants or contest officials, the contest will be rescheduled. Protests may only be entered by two groups of people, the contestants or the voting judges. Protests must be based upon either eligibility or originality. These may be presented to either the chief judge, myself, or to our contest chair, Kathleen Tully. Once the results of the contest have been announced, all decisions are final. At this point now, I say welcome everyone, and I will hand it over back to our contest chair, Madam Contest Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chief Judge. Chief Judge, have the contestants been briefed and determined to be eligible for this contest?
Yes, they have.
Chief Judge, have the judges, timers, and ballot counters been briefed, and are the judges eligible?
Yes, they are, Madam Contest Chair.
Okay, well, it's time for us to begin the evaluation speech contest. Petra Cheradal, the mirror of choice. The mirror of choice, Petra Cheradal.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, tell me who is the fairest of them all. And the mirror says, the fairest, the sweetest, and the sexiest of them all is, come on, is your sister. Oh no! Contest chair, celebrities, ladies and gentlemen, have you ever felt disappointed with your look like I did? Nobody? It happened to me when I was 10 and my sister was 17. She was tall, shapely, and a beauty contest winner. At 10, I was short, chubby, and I almost won an ugly contest. I tried on her clothes, high heel shoes, and lipstick, but I couldn't look like her. My dear father saw the pain in me, and he thought if he didn't help me, I would remain jealous, bitter, and a loser all my life. My father chose to tell me a little folk tale that helped me change the way I look at the mirror of life. Like all stories, it began with once. Upon a time, thank you for helping, there was a little mouse who always wanted to be someone else. Since her body was tiny and weak, she wanted to be someone strong. One day, she said to the sun, the sun, I really want to be you. You must be the strongest of them all. Do you think the sun is the strongest of them all? And the sun said, no, kid, I'm not. Can't you see? When the cloud rolls by, I cannot shine. Oh, gee, that's true. And Uncle Cloud, I want to be you. Hey, kid. Sure, I can overshadow the sun, but when the wind blows, I too will have to go away. Yeah, Madam Wind, I want to be you. Hey, think again, kid. I can blow away the cloud, but I cannot blow through this wooden wall. This time the mouse got frustrated. How come every time I thought someone was the strongest, someone else was always stronger? This time it must be you, the wall, and I want to be you. And the wall said, hey, little mouse, do you really want to know who the strongest of them all is? Yes, I do. It's you. You can use your sharp, tiny teeth to gnaw through me so you can wander freely in and out. You are the strongest of them all, you silly mouse. Me? The strongest of them all? Oh, yes, actually I am. I just forgot to see my own strength. Ladies and gentlemen, have you forgotten to see your own strength sometimes? Sadly, many people forget. That's why blind, handicapped people keep living on handouts. What about Stevie Wonder, famous singer and composer? He's also blind, but not too blind to see his talent, his strength. And I can relate a little bit. At the age of 53, I joined Toastmasters. 1 week after joining, I entered the table topics contest. And 2 months later, I won district table topics contest among 11 contestants from 7 countries. Before the contest, I could have looked at the wrong side of the mirror and I could have told myself, hey, Petra, you're too old. How could you win? Too little training, only 2 months. How could you win? But instead, I turned the mirror around and I chose to rise to the challenge by finding my strength, a good storyteller in me. Ladies and gentlemen, do you still remember the little folk tale that my father told me? Before the story, I was just like that little mouse, always miserable, comparing my weaknesses to other people's strengths. But after the story, I turned the mirror around and I have changed from being jealous with my sister to being happy with her, from being bitter to being better, from being a loser to being a winner. Don't you want to be happy, better, and a winner? Stevie Wonder has done it. I have done it. I'm telling you, you can do it. And I have a secret to share with you. The mirror is not on the wall. The mirror is in the power of your hand. And the mirror is called the mirror of choice. Madam Contest Chair.
Did you notice how Petra not only gave us a great takeaway at the end of her speech, but she also dropped the conference title, Rise to the Challenge. I just thought that was a really great touch. And there were a lot of things I really liked about Petra's speech. contest chair, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Petra. Today, I'm gonna hit on three major parts that I saw in Petra's presentation. First, her overall central theme, her audience engagement as second, and finally, a challenge for her with vocal variety. Let's jump right into central theme. I mentioned before that takeaway. She had this great way of having that prop as a mirror, bringing it in at the start, drawing us all in with mirror, mirror on the wall. A little bit of humor in there as well. And then she turned the mirror around at the end of the speech. It was a great way of just connecting the whole theme together. This central takeaway of looking at the wrong side of the mirror and tying it all together. Great cohesive theme. But moving on to audience engagement. I really noticed that when Petra wanted to get our attention, she would often lean in. And sometimes she'd even do things like asking for the audience to participate. Even though it's a little difficult in this format for us to do that, she did a great job of still forcing me to lean in, because when someone else leans in, you want to lean in too. She did great with that. One opportunity for growth I saw with audience engagement was just at the beginning of her speech. I noticed that she kind of jumped right in, and that's okay. But the issue is you also want to pause a little bit more. Let us kind of soak in what you're saying, especially with elements of humor. I noticed that especially as she was getting out of her introduction, she said, "Have you ever felt?" And then she really quickly said, "Nobody?" Said, just pausing, "Have you ever felt like this?" Nobody? Just a little extra pause can just give that extra oomph to the presentation. All right, we're moving on to the big challenge though. My challenge for you, Petra, is, well, I loved the voices. I loved how you had the sun and you were turning your body, and had the wolf and you were turning your body, but I couldn't differentiate as well between the voices. So one thing that you might try is just changing the timbre of your voice, the quality of your voice with each character just a little more. When I think of a wolf, I think of someone gruff, the wolf talking to the mouse. And then when I think of the sun, I think of something light and happy, like the sun talking down to me, something floaty. But overall, fantastic work. You had this central theme. You had this great audience engagement. You dropped the title of the conference, which is something I would never remember to do. And the two challenges for you are just pausing and breaking up the voices a little bit more. Contest chair.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters guest and test speaker Petra. I thoroughly enjoyed your speech tonight. You had me drawn in right from the beginning with that mirror. I was kind of wondering where you were headed with that, and you drew me in with just that prop alone. I'd like to compliment you tonight on your strengths, and that being the props that you were using, the mirror, turning around, knocking on the wood, just your vocal variety, your facial expressions. You have a real warmth to you that drew me in, and I was literally sitting here smiling this whole time as I was listening to you. I think the other thing that was very interesting about your speech tonight was the message. The message just was very heartwarming, and it was something that I needed to hear. I think that's the other thing that I was really relating to you in what you were talking about. I'm a fairly new a participant in Toastmasters, and so I could relate about joining and participating in contests and actually having some success. And that's why I'm here tonight. I've had a little success, very unexpectedly. So your message was extremely relatable to me. I think that's why I was so drawn in. I honestly had a hard time finding opportunities for improvement for you tonight. I think the only suggestion I have for you that you could do a little bit better in the future was just around the messaging. You were talking about people who have had setbacks in life or things, and I was kind of honestly wanting to hear a little bit more about maybe suggestions about how you saw that they had overcome them. I was taking notes thinking maybe I'm going to learn something here tonight about how I can overcome some of my setbacks. But your message as a whole was just amazing, and I really enjoyed how you tied the end back together. about the secret is that the mirror is in the power of our own hand, and that's the power of the choice that we have. And so that message as a whole just was really heartwarming, and it was something that I needed to hear tonight. So I really enjoyed hearing that message. You, again, just real strong and relatable. So I wanted to compliment you on that. But in summary for you tonight, again, very, very welcoming personality. You drew me in. You had a very engaging speech. It was pertinent to me. It really felt like you were talking to me. It was real relatable. So I appreciated that. Your facial expressions, gestures, movement, you just were right there. You were on point tonight. So very well done. Again, just a minor opportunity for you that maybe just a little more detail there. I was wanting to hear a little bit more, so I might take something away. But as a whole, you literally had me smiling and hooked the whole time. I was really sitting here just excited to hear your speech. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to you and hearing your message tonight. So thank you for your speech tonight, Test Speaker Petra, and back to you, Madam Contest Chair.
That speech was masterful, skillful, and energetic. Speaking of energy, Petra, your energy just oozed through the screen, and your charisma, I could feel it all the way over these Zoom waves. I didn't have to be in the same room with you. I really felt like I was there with you at this speech. That's why this speech was so good. If you can project your energy and your charisma through this screen, you are really doing something right. So what did you do right? First of all, you started with a prop. You whipped out that mirror, and that immediately brings us in. Like, what is she doing with that mirror? And you were sort of brandishing it about from side to side. And at no point did I ever feel so distracted by the mirror that I wanted you to put it down. So that to me says you are using that prop so well, which is why this speech can be masterful. Your gestures were on point. At one point you were saying your sister was a little curvy figure, and you did that with your hands, and you were of the chubby figure. So those gestures were so appropriate. And again, that's what really brings us into the speech with you, is if we can see what's going on. I have a couple of small suggestions. One suggestion I have for you is in the beginning of the speech, you didn't have enough pauses. You seem to be going a little bit fast. One area that I thought you could get a pause in there is you said a very powerful line, and you sort of say it, it was sort of a throwaway line. You said, I almost won an ugly contest. Like, that is an important line. That says a lot about you. That's where you need to pause. Let us feel the weight of that line, of that hurt. And then you can pop right back into your speech and bring up the energy again. Your vocal variety was like all over the place. Again, this is your charisma that shines through when you can really have your voice range going from high to low. You had voices for the mouse. You had voices for the sun. We love that. This is such good storytelling, everybody. This is, if you're going to wonder what a good speech that's a storytelling speech, this is it. Another small suggestion, just in vocal variety, is make the high and low a little bit wider. When you do the voice for the mouse, maybe do a little bit lower. I don't have a very good low voice. And for the sun, a little bit higher. And so that way we can really see the contrast between them. You had tremendous organization of this speech. This was really a great storytelling speech. You started with the fun opening line with the mirror. You went into the fable that your mom told you, and then you whipped it right back around to a personal story, because that's what draws us into the speech. That's what connects us to you, is when it's personal. So such a great job with organization. I do have one challenge for you, Petra. This is the only challenge that I have in the speech. It's your ending line. Your ending line was was about choice. Here, I think you could have a little bit more powerful of an ending line. Have the choice to think of yourself in the positive, to give yourself positive affirmations. Choose to love yourself. Give it a call to action. But other than that, such a great speech, organization, gestures, props on point, a couple of suggestions to kind of clear it up, and a call to action at the end. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Masters, honored guests, contest chair. I am going to evaluate this speaker in 3 areas. The first one is content. The second one is delivery. And the third is impact. First of all, content. This certainly is a universal subject. And I was glad that you talked about when you were a child. It isn't just adults or one group of adults that feels a sense of insecurity. It is children too. I saw this story as a parable, and I think you are good at telling parables, and it certainly got across your point. It got across your point well. The second area is delivery. I loved the delivery that you gave it. You were enthusiastic, you had great voice variation, your gestures were appropriate, you spoke right to us all as we listened, and you had passion. You had emotional passion. I really liked that. You not only gave a speech, but you communicated too. There are a couple of things I noted that I think you could improve on. One is when you say it's you, I would make just a little bit more of a pause between it's and you, so that it's more dramatic, because I was very surprised that you said the most important person in the room is you. The other thing, I would not use celebrities as an example. I would rather hear people, just normal, everyday, wonderful people like you who have overcome a problem. This speech gave a lot of questions to me. I couldn't help but wondering, is your sister now applauding your newfound confidence? Is she listening to your speeches? Is she jealous of you? Have you told your sister about your new interpretations of things? I've wondered if this looking in the mirror by you brought you and your sister closer together. This was a great speech, and I think that it has impact because it is so universally impacted. Give it again. It was great.
Toastmasters and guests, this speech was very attention grabbing right from the beginning. And Petra had a great metaphor of the mirror. And her speech had a frame, just like a mirror. There's a part at the beginning, and then it's framed again at the end. Her speech followed a storyline, and there were 3 stories embedded within that frame. So she started out with a story about her father and her sister, talking about how she had missed out, or how she had felt less than her sister. And then her father told her story. So then we got into that story within the story. As we went along through the story, there's so many grabbing things, so many attention grabbing things, so many entertaining things about how Petra had hand motions. She had emotion. She had facial gestures that brought it all together and kept it going step by step through the speech. She had pauses that also added to the speech. And then she got to the point where the story about the mouse was over. At that point, the story got a little bit less even. Before that, it had been very clear, very step by step, very even. But at that point, it started to fall apart just a little bit. And she said it like that. She said she could relate a little bit. I remember that was when it started to fall apart a bit. She talked about her table topics contest, and that part was very relatable. We all know how it feels to start on something new and to be afraid and to worry about how it might work out. And then she went ahead and went for it. So the ending could have been tighter. And the wrap up could have been tighter because it started to go on a little bit. There were things happening. There were too many things happening that could have been shrunken up to a smaller section. Her final, I really enjoyed when she said bitter to better. Maybe that would have been a way to end the speech. She talked about her mirror, the mirror of choice, and the strength of your hand. That didn't quite wrap it all up in the mirror metaphor with a firm frame, the firm handle. So if she would have just wrapped that part up, it would have helped, it would have made the speech even better. Hopefully we can all learn to have a solid frame when we give our speeches. Thank you.
What do you all see in my fist? Do you see that I have the choice of what I see and what I don't see? What do you see here? Do you see a rose or you see the thorns? If I put this rose in a mirror, what's the mirror gonna tell? It's just gonna say it's a beautiful rose. Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters, and dear guests, I want you all to join me in just applauding the speaker for bringing this wonderful flower of rose and the mirror of choice to us. How would have this flower looked so beautiful? Look around, it's the mirage of petals. What did the speaker do? She blended in all the petals. There were petals of storytelling, beautiful storytelling. She took us through her own life experience of how a little tiny girl felt so vulnerable to the stage at 53, where she was confident enough and she had discovered herself. The beautiful storytelling. What's the other petal which you would not have missed? The range of emotions she took us to. Right from humor, joy, sadness, vulnerability, persuasiveness, inspiration, all done through a wonderful vocal variety, through her expressions, and through, can you forget that mirror? The virtual visual aid, the mirror. What is it that made her story all the more beautiful, the wonderful petal? The message she had for us, it's not that she was only telling her story. She was asking us to reflect on ourselves and to see how we could also find that mirror of choice. Wonderfully done. What is it that she could have had done better? I felt every time with her. I felt when she said, I felt weak at heart. But you know what? I could not see her hand. I wish her movements were a little up. I wish she would have stayed in front of the screen for some more time. What did I miss secondly? I wish she would have been more persuasive. She would have given me more time, more 2 minutes to reflect on my weakness. She should have stayed, asked me, what is your weakness that you think makes you weak? With these two factors taken care of, presence of screen and helping me find my strength, she would have made it beautifully. Thank you, Contest Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and especially you, Petra. Petra, tonight your speech reminded me of something I really enjoy in life, and that is a Sunday drive. Right off the bat, your intro was super catchy, mirror, mirror on the wall. It reminded me of a big flashy car that I'm gonna go in and take on that drive. You set us everything up in your introduction, like everything you'd want for a Sunday drive. You wanna have where you're going, you wanna have the stuff you need, and you provided that all that in your introduction. You set up your speech to tell us where you're gonna go, and then we were off. During the ride, we had 3 stops in your speech. The first stop was when you were talking about your sister and how you really wanted to try and strive to meet her image, how that was so important to you. The second stop that we made on our drive was the story that your father shared with you and how important that was and the difference it made in your life, and had a super fantastic meeting. So that was a really great stop. That was probably the best part of the drive, was that stop. The third place we went on our drive through your story was your talk about questioning about your own strength. This was a really important place for us to visit because it really gave some introspection and it gave people something to think about during your speech. It was a really great way to add some depth, and it was an excellent way to spend some time on your speech. During the drive, we had a lot of fantastic elements. We had vocal variety. We had body gestures. We had descriptive language. It's like we had some good conversation on the drive. You had a good pace. Very important on a Sunday drive, not to rush through. Just like in your speech, you didn't rush through. You took the time on the important parts of the speech. You really let us embellish and enjoy those important parts with you. You also had some different voices. We had your sister, we had the wall, we had the mouse. It's almost like the things we're listening to on the radio, the different elements that we heard throughout the speech as we're listening to different parts on our journey. A couple of things that I thought would have made the drive just a little bit better was you mentioned your father, but we didn't really get a lot of in-depth about him, why he was important. I thought you could have maybe made a sentence or two about him. And then also the conclusion seemed like it was a little bit long. Watching the clock, you were in the red, so it felt like that was a little bit drawn out. But in the end, you brought us home with the conclusion. You made it really stick. You brought it all back together, talking about summarizing your speech and everything that went with it to bring it back. Overall, I really enjoyed your speech, and I hope you enjoyed my evaluation. Thank you, Petra.
Petra, thank you so much for that engaging and entertaining speech about how to find your strength and use the mirror of life to look on yourself with kindness. There are three things that I'd like to speak about that I was very impressed with your speech: the way you created your characters, your strategic use of pauses, and the repetition of the three qualities. I was immediately drawn into your speech with your story about your sister. And a big reason why was the way you created your characters physically. You physically moved your body and the direction of your gaze to embody people. For example, your sister was tall. You were very short. In your fable, you had the sun looking down on the little mouse looking up at the sun, and that made me feel like your characters were physical and real. Similarly, with your prop of the mirror, that brought me right into your story, especially with the surprise of my sister is the most beautiful, not me, but also the fact that the mirror was a physical object drew me into your story and helped me feel like it was more real. You also created this character of Stevie Wonder, and while I felt that it was relevant to your speech, I actually feel that a celebrity example you didn't need, because your fable and your personal story was so powerful. So simply consider leaving that out, might even make it stronger because you don't need it. Secondly, your use of pauses. You said once upon a, and with your face and hand gesture, invited the audience to fill in time. That draws all of our attention on you and keeps us engaged. You also used pauses to emphasize an important point by pausing right after you make that point. For example, you said, "Did I forget that I could win?" And that pause helps that message sink in for us. So I thought that was brilliant. Finally, the three qualities that you repeated throughout the speech. Here they are. You said that you were jealous, bitter, and a loser. Those are very emotional words that immediately engaged me and made me imagine feeling that way myself. And I realized those words represent the core conflict of the whole story, to try to stop viewing yourself in that way. And brilliantly, you brought those back and brought the story full circle at the end. And each word had changed to show the transformation of the main character, which in this case was you. So you said from jealous to happy, from bitter to better, and from loser to winner. because that was the core of the conflict, showing that change really brought us there with the transformation. And I would say perhaps consider including those words one more time, since they're so powerful, maybe somewhere in the middle of your speech. For example, in the fable, maybe the mouse is feeling that way about herself. So Petra, to sum up, I thought you created your characters with the way you moved, the way you used your prop. Your pauses drew the audience in and let your main points sink in. And the repetition of the three qualities gave us an emotional through line to follow and brought it full circle. Contest chair.